The shore of Ithaca wakes slowly. Before the sun rises fully, before the sea brightens, the island exists in half light. Stone paths are still cool, the ground holds the night. Olive trees stand quietly, their narrow leaves barely moving, as if the air itself has not yet decided to breathe. This is not a place of urgency. Nothing here begins suddenly. The houses near the shore are low and simple. Their walls are built from stone gathered patiently over generations. Each stone was lifted, carried, set in place by hands that knew the weight of time more than the need for speed. Smoke rises thinly from a few hearths, not in great columns, but in faint threads that drift upward and disappear into the pale sky. Inside these houses, people wake without alarm. A woman stirs coals from the night before. A child turns in sleep. An old man steps outside, pauses, and listens to the sea, not because it demands attention, but because it is always there. Ithaca is small. Its hills rise gently rather than sharply. Goats move slowly across rocky ground, stopping often to chew, to look, to listen. Paths wind instead of cutting straight lines. Everything here seems shaped by patience. At the edge of the island, boats rest on the shore. They are pulled part way from the water, their wooden hulls darkened by salt and age. Ropes lie coiled beside them, thick and worn smooth by years of hands gripping them in the same places. Sails are folded carefully, not because they are about to be used, but because this is how they are always stored. The boats are not heroic objects. They are tools. They creak softly when the tide shifts. They smell of pitch, wood, and the sea. They are familiar in the way that furniture becomes familiar, noticed only when missing. Among the people of Ithaca is a man named Odysseus. He does not wake differently from anyone else. He is not announced by music or light. He steps outside his house as the sky grows brighter, his feet bare against the stone. He pauses, as many do, to feel the morning. He looks toward the sea, not with longing, but with recognition. For Odysseus, the sea is not yet a challenge. It is simply part of life. He is known on the island not as a hero, but as a man with land, with animals, with responsibilities that repeat themselves each day. He knows where the walls of his fields need repair. He knows which trees bear fruit early, which late. He knows how long grain will last in storage, how much oil remains in clay jars sealed with wax. These are quiet kinds of knowledge. Inside the house, Penelope is already awake. She moves calmly through familiar motions. She checks the loom, fingers brushing the threads as if greeting them. The weaving waits for her. It always does. Wool rests in baskets. Patterns grow slowly, line by line, day after day. Weaving is not rushed. It is measured in patience. Penelope does not think of the loom as work that must be finished quickly. It is something that exists alongside time. Each day adds a little. Each night pauses it again. Servants move quietly. One sweeps the floor. Another carries water from a nearby spring. There is no shouting. There is no need for it. Outside, the island continues its small rituals. Fishermen check their nets. They mend what tore the day before. A tear in a net is not a failure. It is expected. Everything wears down eventually. A man walks a donkey along a narrow path. The donkey stops often. The man waits. Waiting is normal here. The sun rises higher. Light touches the hills. Shadows shorten. The sea changes colour, not suddenly but gradually, like a thought becoming clear only after a long pause. Odysseus eats a simple morning meal. Bread, olives, perhaps a little cheese. Food here is steady rather than exciting. It sustains rather than distracts. He listens as others speak, though not much is said. There are comments about the weather, about the goats, about a fence that needs attention. These conversations do not move quickly toward conclusions. They exist for their own sake. The day begins, but gently. Odysseus walks through his land. He checks stones along a boundary wall, adjusting one that has shifted. He lifts it, sets it back in place, presses down to make sure it holds. This movement has been repeated countless times by countless hands. Nothing about it is memorable. That is why it matters. The sea remains in view from many places on the island. It is impossible to forget it, but easy to stop thinking about it. Its sound blends with the wind, with birds, with distant voices. For years, Odysseus has lived like this. He has known routine more than adventure. He has known repetition more than interruption. His life has been shaped not by single dramatic moments, but by thousands of quiet ones. When people later speak of journeys and trials, they forget this beginning. They forget the stillness that comes before movement. As the morning continues, Odysseus visits the shore. He does not go there to leave, not yet. He goes because the shore is part of the day. He checks one of the boats. He runs a hand along the hull. He adjusts a rope, tightening it slightly where it has loosened. These small acts do not signal departure. They signal care. The boat responds with a soft creak. The water laps gently against the sand. Waves arrive without force. They seem more like breathing than motion. Odysseus stands for a while without doing anything. This is not unusual. Standing, watching, listening. These are not wasted moments on Ithaca. They are the spaces between tasks, the moments where thought drifts freely without urgency. He thinks of nothing in particular. Perhaps of the coming day. Perhaps of the past. Perhaps of nothing at all. Time passes unnoticed. Eventually someone calls his name, not sharply but casually. He turns, acknowledges it, and walks back toward the village. Penelope continues her weaving. She sits where light falls evenly across the threads. Her hands move with a rhythm learned long ago. She does not count the motions. She does not hurry them. The loom responds to her touch, thread settling into place. This work connects her to others, women who wove before her, women who will weave after. The pattern is familiar but never exactly the same. Outside, animals rest in patches of shade. The heat grows slowly. Cicadas begin their soft, endless sound. It fills the air without demanding attention. The island settles into midday. Meals are prepared, fires are lit, water is carried again. Children move in and out of the house. There is laughter, but not loud. There is conversation, but not urgent. Odysseus eats again. He listens again. Nothing yet suggests departure, and yet, beneath the surface of these days, something waits. Not excitement, not fear, just inevitability. The world beyond Ithaca exists even when unseen. Other shores, other islands, other lives moving at their own slow pace. Trade routes, alliances, conflicts spoken of quietly as distant matters. Sometimes travellers arrive. They bring news that feels both close and far away. A war in a distant place, a king calling for allies, ships gathering somewhere beyond the horizon. These stories enter Ithaca gently. They are heard, considered, and set aside for the moment. No one panics. Life continues. But the idea of movement begins to exist, not as action, but as possibility. One evening, as the light fades and shadows lengthen, Odysseus sits outside his house. The air cools. The smell of cooked food lingers. Somewhere nearby, a fire crackles softly. The sea darkens. It reflects less light now, becoming a deep, calm surface that seems to absorb sound. Odysseus looks toward it again. This time, the gaze lingers a little longer. Not with excitement, not with dread, with acceptance. The sea has always been there. Soon it may ask more of him than attention, but for now, the island remains. Penelope finishes her work for the day. She ties off the thread, covers the loom, and stands. Her movements are unhurried. She does not rush toward the future. Night arrives without announcement. Stars appear one by one. Lamps are lit. Doors are closed. Odysseus lies down to sleep. The sounds of Ithaca surround him. The distant sea, the quiet breathing of others, the soft movements of night animals. His life at this moment is simple. This is the beginning, not marked by action, not marked by struggle, but by stillness, by routine, by a shore that waits patiently, knowing that departure always comes slowly. The sea does not announce the beginning of a journey. There is no clear moment when land becomes past and water becomes future. The shoreline loosens its hold gradually, one step, then another. The boat shifts its weight. The water accepts the hull without resistance. Departure happens quietly. The men who move the boat into the shallows do so without ceremony. Their feet sink slightly into wet sand. They push, pause, push again. The boat responds slowly, as if reluctant to remember motion after so much rest. Ropes are loosened. Sails remain folded. At first, rowing is enough. The oars enter the water at a steady pace, not fast, not slow, just often enough to keep direction. The sound they make is soft, regular. Water parts, closes again, forgets. Odysseus sits among the others. Here he is not separate. He grips the oar like everyone else. His hands already know the feel of wood worn smooth by years of use. The grain presses into his palms in familiar ways. This is not his first time at sea. None of the men here treat the water as something new. The sea is not a mystery. It is a habit, something returned to again and again, like walking the same path between home and field. The coastline remains visible. It drifts slowly beside them. Cliffs pass. Small inlets appear and disappear. Trees lean toward the water as if listening. Birds circle lazily overhead, uninterested in the boat's presence. Navigation at first requires little thought. They follow the land. They know where it bends, where it breaks, where it offers shelter if needed. This knowledge was learned gradually, passed from voice to voice, memory to memory. There are no maps to unfold dramatically. There is only familiarity. As the sun climbs higher, the rhythm of rowing settles into something steady. Muscles warm. Breath evens out. No one speaks much. Conversation would only interrupt what the body already understands. The boat glides forward. Time begins to change its shape. On land, time is marked by tasks. A fence repaired, a meal prepared, a loom advanced by a few threads. At sea, time stretches. It becomes harder to measure. One wave looks much like another. 1 hour blends into the next. Eventually the sail is raised. Not suddenly, carefully. Hands move upward, pulling rope through calloused fingers. The cloth catches the wind gently, without snapping. The boat responds with a subtle shift, a change in tension that is felt more than seen. The oars rest. Silence grows. Now the only sounds are water against wood, wind through fabric, the occasional creak of the hull adjusting to motion. The men settle into positions that will hold for hours. Some sit, some lean back, some close their eyes briefly, not to sleep deeply, but to rest the mind. The sun moves across the sky without comment. Food is simple. A piece of bread passed from hand to hand. Dried fish, chewed slowly. Water taken in careful sips. No one eats more than needed. Supplies are counted quietly, without numbers spoken aloud. Eating does not interrupt the journey. It exists alongside it. As the day stretches on, the coastline grows more distant. Eventually it becomes a line rather than a place, then a suggestion, then nothing at all. Water surrounds them. The sea here is calm, but not still. It rises and falls gently, like a sleeping animal. The boat moves with it, adjusting without effort. Odysseus watches the surface. Light breaks into patterns. Reflections scatter and rejoin. No two moments look exactly the same, and yet nothing changes. This is what the sea offers most often. Not storms, not monsters, but sameness. Hours pass. The sun begins to lower. Shadows lengthen across the deck. The sail shifts slightly as the wind changes direction. Someone adjusts it. No words are exchanged. The boat responds. As evening approaches, the temperature cools. The air grows heavier with moisture. The smell of salt becomes stronger. Stars appear slowly. At first, 1 or 2, then more. They do not arrive all at once. They take their time. The men look up, not in wonder, but in habit. These lights are useful. They mark direction. They confirm position. They offer reassurance that the world above remains steady, even when surrounded by water. Someone points quietly. Another nods. Navigation continues. Night at sea is not frightening when calm. It is simply dark. The boat becomes a small island of wood and quiet movement. The horizon disappears. Distance loses meaning. The sea reflects faint starlight. It becomes a dark mirror, broken gently by the hull's passage. Some men sleep. Not deeply, not for long. Sleep comes in short stretches. Heads rest against bundled cloth or coiled rope. Bodies remain aware even while resting. Others stay awake, watching, listening. Odysseus remains still. He feels the motion of the boat through his body, the slight rise and fall, the gentle sway. It is almost soothing. His thoughts slow. The sea does this. It removes unnecessary thinking. It leaves only what matters: balance, awareness, patience. Morning returns without announcement. Light spreads gradually across the water. The stars fade one by one. The horizon reappears as a suggestion, then a line, then a clear boundary. Someone stretches, another shifts position. No one speaks immediately. The sail remains full. The wind has held through the night. Breakfast is quiet. Another piece of bread. Water passed again. A brief exchange of glances, enough to confirm that all is well. Days at sea repeat this way. Movement, stillness, eating, watching, resting. Sometimes the wind fails. When that happens, the sail droops. The boat slows. Oars return to the water. Muscles work again. The rhythm resumes. Rowing is not rushed. There is no reason to hurry. The destination is distant. Speed would only bring exhaustion. Instead, they move steadily. Stroke, pause, stroke. The sound of water remains constant. At times, clouds gather. Not threatening clouds, just formations drifting across the sky. They provide shade. They change the light. They pass. Occasionally rain falls. Light rain most often. It darkens the wood. It cools the skin. The men pull cloaks closer, adjust positions, wait it out. Rain at sea is not dramatic. It simply happens. Afterward, things dry slowly. Cloth stiffens with salt. Wood lightens again. The boat continues. Some days bring no landmarks at all. Only water. Only sky. On those days, conversation is rare. There is nothing new to discuss. The sea offers no stories of its own. Memory fills the space instead. Odysseus thinks of Ithaca, not sharply, but vaguely. Olive trees, stone paths, the smell of smoke in the morning. These images drift through his mind without urgency. They are not painful. They are simply present. The men aboard each carry their own thoughts, their own homes, their own routines left temporarily behind. No one speaks of heroism. No one speaks of destiny. They speak, if they speak at all, of practical things. Wind direction, the condition of the sail, how long supplies might last. Sometimes they hum quietly. Not songs meant to inspire, but fragments of familiar melodies, the kind that repeat themselves without effort. The sea accepts these sounds and does not return them. As the journey continues, the men become leaner. Their skin darkens. Their movements grow more economical. Everything unnecessary is stripped away. At sea, excess has no place. Even Odysseus feels this change. His thoughts simplify. He worries less about distant outcomes. He focuses more on the immediate moment, the angle of the sail, the feel of the deck beneath him, the pattern of waves ahead. This is the long habit of the sea. It teaches endurance, not through hardship, but through repetition. Eventually land appears again. At first it is uncertain, a shape that might be cloud or shadow. Someone notices it but does not call out immediately. They watch it quietly, waiting for confirmation. Slowly the shape becomes definite. An island, a shoreline, something solid. There is no cheer. There is only adjustment. The sail shifts. Direction changes slightly. the boat responds. As they approach, details emerge. Trees, rock, a beach or a cliff. It is not yet clear what kind of place this is, and that is fine. Arrival is not an event. It is simply the end of one stretch of water and the beginning of something else. The boat moves closer. The sea remains calm. It has done its part. It always does. Land does not always bring movement. Sometimes it brings stillness. As the boat approaches the island, the water grows shallower. Its colour shifts subtly, from deep blue to muted green, then to pale clarity near the shore. The hull slows, responding naturally to the change beneath it. No one speaks. The men step into the water when it is low enough. Their feet touch sand and stone. The ground feels solid, reassuring, and strangely unfamiliar after so many days of gentle motion. They pull the boat up the beach. Not quickly, not forcefully. Wood scrapes softly against sand. Ropes are secured. The sail is lowered and folded with the same care it received at departure. The journey pauses here. The island is quiet. It does not announce itself. It does not greet them. It simply exists, as Ithaca exists, as all places do, without expectation. Trees grow close to the shore. Their leaves move faintly in the breeze. The air smells different here, fresher perhaps, or simply unfamiliar. Odysseus steps onto the island. His body adjusts slowly. Land feels steady beneath him, but his balance still remembers the sea. For a moment the ground seems to move, though it does not. This sensation passes. The men spread out, but not far. They move in small, practical patterns. One looks for fresh water. Another checks the boat again, making sure it rests safely. Others gather driftwood or fallen branches. No one rushes. There is no reason to. Time behaves differently on land, especially on land that is not home. They find a spring. The water is cool and clear. It flows quietly over stone, as if it has been waiting for no one in particular. Cups are filled, faces are washed. Thirst is relieved. This too is routine. Food is gathered. Fruit hangs from low branches, not abundant but enough. It is picked carefully. Nothing is stripped unnecessarily. Hunger does not require excess. A fire is made. Flint strikes stone. Sparks appear, vanish, appear again. Eventually, flame takes hold. The fire grows slowly, fed patiently. There is no urgency to cook. The island does not demand immediate action. As the day passes, the men settle into something like a rhythm, but not a familiar one. This rhythm belongs to the island now. It dictates pace through silence rather than instruction. Some men sit. They rest without sleeping. They watch shadows move across the ground. They listen to unfamiliar birds calling from deeper within the trees. Odysseus walks a short distance inland. The island reveals itself gradually. A gentle slope, rocks covered in moss, paths made by animals rather than people. There is no sign of settlement nearby, no smoke, no voices. This place is not empty, it is simply quiet. Time stretches. Without the movement of the sea, hours lose their edges. There is no horizon to mark progress. The sun climbs, pauses, begins to lower again. Waiting fills the space where purpose usually sits. Eventually others appear, not suddenly, not threateningly. A small group approaches from within the island. They move slowly. They carry no weapons openly. Their posture is relaxed, cautious, curious. These are the island's inhabitants. They do not shout, they do not run. They stop at a comfortable distance. There is a pause, then gestures, small movements of hands, nods, the universal language of presence without hostility. Words follow, spoken calmly. The exchange is unremarkable. Names may be shared, perhaps not. Simple phrases pass between them, about water, about food, about the boat. Meaning is conveyed more through tone than vocabulary. Hospitality here is not ceremonial, it is practical. The islanders offer fruit. The men from the boat accept. Bread is shared in return. No one counts, no one keeps track. Odysseus watches more than he speaks. He notices how these people move. Their pace matches the island, unhurried, attentive. They are shaped by this place, just as he is shaped by Ithaca. They gesture towards shaded ground. The invitation is clear: rest. And so they do. The men sit beneath trees. The earth is cool. The air is still. The sound of leaves replaces the sound of water. Conversation is sparse. There is no need to fill silence. As the afternoon fades, the island seems to slow even further. Light softens. Colours deepen slightly, then dull. Someone lies back and closes their eyes. Sleep comes easily here. Not deep sleep, not dream heavy, just rest. Odysseus leans against a tree. He feels the roughness of bark against his shoulder. He feels the warmth of the ground beneath him. His thoughts wander, then settle. The waiting continues. Evening arrives without signal. Fires are lit again. Food is prepared with the same care as before. There is no feast. There is no celebration. Just sustenance. The islanders move quietly around the fire. Their faces glow in the light. They speak softly among themselves. Odysseus listens without trying to understand every word. Meaning here is not in information. It is in presence. The night grows darker. Stars appear above the canopy in broken patterns. The fire becomes the centre of the small world they share for now. Someone tells a story. It is not dramatic. It is not told to impress. It is told the way one might describe a familiar path or an old tree. Details are offered without emphasis. The story drifts. Others listen until they no longer do. Their attention fades. Their bodies relax. One by one, people settle into sleep. The fire burns lower. The island holds them. Morning returns. The air is cool. Mist clings to the ground in thin layers. The world feels suspended, as if unsure whether to wake fully. The men rise slowly. They stretch. They drink water. They eat again. No one mentions leaving. Waiting has become normal. The boat remains where it was pulled ashore. It waits too. Its wood dries slowly. Salt crusts form, then flake away. Days pass this way. Not many, not few. Time on the island is measured differently. It is measured in light, in hunger, in rest, not in goals. Odysseus begins to feel the subtle shift that comes with prolonged stillness. Thoughts slow further. Concerns lose their shape. The future becomes less distinct. This is not forgetfulness. It is release. The island asks nothing of them. In return, it offers nothing specific. This balance feels stable. Eventually, however, the waiting changes. Not abruptly, not forcefully, just enough to be noticed. A sense of readiness appears. Not urgency, not restlessness, simply readiness. Odysseus walks to the shore again. He looks at the boat. It is still there. It is sound. It has waited as patiently as they have. The sea lies beyond, calm and indifferent. The island does not resist departure. It does not cling. It allows. The men begin to prepare, not with excitement, not with relief, with quiet acceptance. Supplies are gathered. Thanks are exchanged with gestures, nods, simple words. There are no promises to return, no farewells heavy with meaning. The island will remain whether they remember it or not. The boat is pushed back into the water. The men step aboard. The sail is raised. The island recedes slowly. Trees blend into shape. Shape becomes colour. Colour becomes memory. Waiting ends. Movement resumes. But the stillness lingers within them, carried quietly into the next stretch of water.
Hunger arrives quietly. It does not demand. It does not announce itself sharply. It settles into the body as a mild reminder, a soft tightening, a simple awareness. On the road, on islands, along unfamiliar shores, meals become markers. They divide the day without urgency. They give shape to time when nothing else does. The food is prepared slowly. Wood is gathered first, always wood. Dry pieces if possible, though damp ones will do if patience is applied. The fire does not resist, it simply takes time. Flame grows from spark to ember, from ember to warmth. The men sit around it. They do not crowd close at first. They wait for the heat to settle, for the smoke to find its path upward. Fires teach this kind of patience. Lean too close too soon, and the smoke reminds you to wait. Odysseus watches the fire. Flames move endlessly, but never seem hurried. They rise, curl, fall, repeat. Watching them requires no effort. The mind follows without being pulled. Food appears gradually. Bread is unwrapped from cloth. Its surface is dry, its inside firm. It is broken, not cut. Pieces are passed without counting. No one measures fairness too carefully. Hunger is shared, so is restraint. If there is meat, it is small and treated with care. It cooks slowly, turned occasionally. Fat drips into the fire and hisses softly. The sound is brief, then gone. Cooking does not invite conversation. It allows silence. When the food is ready, they eat. Not quickly, not slowly. At the pace the body chooses. Odysseus eats without thinking about the meal itself. Taste exists, but it does not demand attention. What matters more is warmth, the feeling of sustenance settling in, the quiet satisfaction of something simple being enough. Around the fire, people shift positions. Someone stretches their legs. Someone else leans back on their hands. Cloaks are adjusted as the air cools. Night deepens. The fire becomes the center of the small space they occupy. Beyond it, the world recedes into darkness. The sea is there, but unseen. The land holds its shape, but offers no detail. Light flickers across faces. It reveals and conceals at the same time. This is when stories sometimes appear. Not because they must, not because anyone asks. They emerge naturally, like breath. Someone begins to speak, not loudly, not with intention to perform. The story begins without clear beginning. It refers to something that happened once, or something heard long ago, or something that may not have happened at all. The details are unimportant. What matters is the sound of the voice, the rhythm of speech, the familiar pattern of narrative unfolding and folding back on itself. Odysseus listens. He does not interrupt. He does not correct. Accuracy is not valued here. Stories around a fire are not records. They are companions. The storyteller pauses often to think, to breathe, to let the fire speak for a moment. Others listen until they no longer do. Attention drifts. That is acceptable. No one demands focus. Another voice joins in briefly. A comment, a memory, a small addition. Then silence returns. The fire continues its work. Sometimes the stories touch on distant places, other shores, other islands, names that mean little to those listening. The sea connects them all, loosely, without insisting on meaning. Sometimes the stories are about home, fields, animals, weather patterns remembered more than events. These stories carry weight, but gently. Odysseus thinks of Ithaca again, not sharply, not with longing that aches, just with recognition. The smell of smoke reminds him of evenings by his own hearth, the way light pools on stone floors, the quiet movements of people settling into rest. The fire here is not his fire, but fire is always similar. This familiarity comforts him. As the night grows older, the stories thin out. Words become fewer. Sentences shorten. Silence stretches longer between them. Someone yawns. Another wraps their cloak tighter. The fire burns lower. Embers glow. This is the moment when attention fades naturally, when thought loosens its grip. Sleep approaches without being summoned. Some lie down near the fire. Others move a short distance away. There is no formal arrangement. Everyone knows where to be without instruction. Odysseus lies back and watches the sparks rise. They lift briefly, then vanish into darkness. He does not try to hold on to them. The night passes in fragments. Sleep comes and goes. Dreams may appear, but they are thin, quickly forgotten. The body rests even when the mind drifts. The fire reduces itself to ash. Morning returns quietly. Light seeps into the space. Colors reappear slowly. The world feels new, though nothing has changed. Someone stirs the embers. A flame returns. Another meal begins its slow preparation. Bread again. Water again. Perhaps fruit. There is comfort in repetition. Meals anchor the day. Fires anchor the night. Stories fill the space between. This pattern repeats across islands, across shores, across days that blur together. Wherever they stop, the same motions appear. Gather, prepare, eat, rest. It does not matter where they are. The routine remains. Odysseus begins to notice how these moments shape the journey more than distance ever could. The sea carries them, yes, but the meals sustain them. The fires warm them. The stories remind them they are not alone. These small things accumulate. They leave quiet traces. Even as the journey continues, even as islands come and go, these moments remain the same. They offer a sense of stability that travel alone cannot provide. Eventually, another departure approaches. The fire burns one last time in this place. The last meal is eaten without remark. The last story fades into silence. No one marks it as final. They rise. They gather what they brought. They leave the space as they found it. The fire is allowed to die naturally. Ash cools. Smoke thins. The shore waits. The boat waits. The journey resumes. But the warmth of shared meals and quiet stories lingers, carried inward, where it will remain long after the fire itself is forgotten. Belief does not always arrive with signs. More often, it exists quietly, like the weather. It is noticed when it changes, but rarely questioned when it remains steady. For Odysseus and the men who travel with him, the gods are not figures of constant conversation. They are not debated, not analyzed. They are simply there, woven into daily actions the way the sea is woven into the horizon. A hand touches a small object before sleep. A few words are spoken under the breath. A pause is taken before eating. These gestures are not dramatic. They are habitual. On the shore of an island, A small pile of stones sits near the water. It is not marked. It does not stand out. It exists because someone once placed a stone there, and someone else added another. An offering is left, a piece of bread, a sip of wine, a few grains scattered on the ground. No one waits for a response. The offering is not a request. It is an acknowledgement. The gods are distant, not absent, not uncaring, just distant. Odysseus understands this without having to think about it. He has grown up with the knowledge that the world is shaped by forces beyond control. The sea, the wind, the turning of seasons. The gods exist in the same way. They are not called upon for small things. They are remembered for large ones. Before departure, a prayer is spoken. Not loudly, not publicly, just enough to be heard by the one speaking it. It asks for safe passage, not victory. It asks for balance, not triumph. The words are simple. The men do not stand in formation. They do not kneel together. Each carries their own version of belief. Some believe deeply, some less so. Some act out of habit alone. All of it is acceptable. At sea, belief becomes even quieter. When the wind holds steady, no one praises the gods. It is simply noted. When the sky remains clear, it is accepted. Only when something shifts does belief come forward. A sudden change in weather, a cloud formation that feels unfamiliar, a bird flying in an unusual pattern. These moments are noticed, then filed away mentally. They are not interpreted immediately. The gods do not demand instant meaning. One evening, as the boat rests near shore, the water grows restless. Small waves break against the hull. The wind shifts direction. No one panics. The sail is adjusted. Ropes are checked. The men move with quiet coordination. Someone murmurs a name, not as a plea, not as a cry, just as recognition. Odysseus feels the change in air pressure before he sees the clouds. His body responds first. His mind follows later. He does not think of punishment. He thinks of cause and effect. Storms happen. Winds turn. The sea moves according to its nature. The gods exist behind these things, not in front of them. When rain comes, it is treated as rain. Cloaks are pulled closer. Supplies are covered. The boat is positioned carefully. Waiting begins. There is no shouting into the sky. There is no bargaining. The rain passes when it passes. Afterward, a small gesture is made, a thanks, a nod, a moment of acknowledgement, not because the gods must be thanked, but because gratitude steadies the mind. On land, belief appears in quieter forms, a shrine near a path, a worn statue beside a spring. Moss grows around its base. Offerings gather and fade. No one maintains it carefully. It does not need to be perfect to be meaningful. Odysseus pauses when he passes such places. He does not always stop. When he does, it is brief. A touch of stone, a thought not spoken aloud. The gods do not require more. At night, under unfamiliar stars, belief becomes a companion rather than a shield. The men sleep lightly, not because they fear the gods, but because the world feels larger in darkness. Someone whispers a prayer before sleep, another does not. Both sleep eventually. Odysseus lies awake for a time. He watches the stars. They seem fixed, unmoving. They offer comfort through consistency. The gods, he believes, exist somewhere between those lights and the sea below, not intervening constantly, but present enough to matter. This belief does not give answers. It gives context. When something goes wrong, it is not chaos. It is part of a larger pattern, even if unseen. When something goes well, it is not earned. It is allowed. This understanding keeps expectations low and acceptance high. The journey continues under this quiet belief. No sacrifices are made daily. No rituals dominate the hours. Faith fits into the spaces between tasks. A short pause before launching the boat. A moment of silence after a safe landing. A gesture made without thought. These things accumulate. They shape how the men move through uncertainty. Even Odysseus, known later for cleverness and endurance, does not believe he controls his fate completely. He believes he navigates within it. This belief brings calm. It removes the need to force outcomes. The gods remain distant, but not forgotten. They are not companions on the deck. They do not share meals or stories. They do not explain themselves. They are simply there, in the wind that holds the sail, in the wave that lifts the hull, in the quiet survival of another day. When danger comes later, belief will not erase it. When loss appears, belief will not undo it. But here, now, in this quiet stretch of the journey, belief rests softly in the background, like a low fire that never goes out completely. It warms without burning. And that is enough. Storms do not begin loudly. They announce themselves slowly, through small changes that only become clear in hindsight. A shift in wind, a tightening of the air, the way clouds thicken without forming clear shapes. The men notice these signs without speaking. There is no need to point them out. Everyone feels them. The sail changes its weight. It pulls differently. The boat responds with a slightly altered rhythm, rising a bit higher, settling a bit deeper. Odysseus adjusts his stance. This is not fear. It is attention. The sea darkens gradually. Light dulls. Colors lose contrast. The horizon softens, becoming less distinct. Someone moves toward the ropes. Another loosens a line. The sail is lowered part way, not in haste, but with care. Storms are not fought. They are prepared for. The wind increases, not suddenly, not violently. It builds the way a thought builds, slowly, insistently. Waves grow taller, not enough to threaten, but enough to demand respect. The boat responds as it always does, lifting and falling in measured motion. Water splashes over the side. No one reacts dramatically. Cloaks are adjusted. Positions shift slightly. The deck grows slick, then slicker. Rain begins. It is steady, even. Not the kind that stings. It falls in sheets soaking wood, cloth, skin. The sound of it blends with the sound of water below. The men hunch slightly. They say nothing. Speech would be lost anyway. Odysseus feels the rain on his face. It cools him. It blurs his vision slightly. He blinks and continues watching the water ahead. The storm has no personality. It does not threaten. It simply exists. Time stretches. Minutes lose meaning. There is only the present moment, the angle of the boat, the pressure of the wind, the constant need to remain balanced. Hands grip rope and wood, muscles work quietly. This is endurance without effort. Not because it is easy, but because it is familiar. The sea teaches this. You cannot hurry a storm. You cannot reason with it. You cannot intimidate it. You can only remain steady. Waves rise higher now. They roll beneath the hull, lifting it, then setting it down again. Water flows across the deck in shallow streams before draining away. No one slips. The men know where to place their feet. Odysseus moves carefully, not quickly. Each step is deliberate. He checks the sail again, then the rope, then the position of the boat relative to the wind. These tasks do not feel urgent. They feel necessary. The storm continues. Rain blurs the world into shades of gray. The sky and sea become nearly indistinguishable. Direction is maintained by instinct and experience more than sight. This does not cause panic. This is part of the long habit of the sea. Eventually, the wind reaches its peak. The boat rocks more strongly now, but still it holds. Wood creaks, ropes strain slightly. Nothing breaks. Odysseus notices how his thoughts narrow. There is no space for memory, no room for anticipation. Only awareness remains. This too is calming in its way. Then, without ceremony, the storm begins to fade. The rain lightens. The wind eases. Waves shorten. The boat's motion smooths. No one announces this change. They feel it. The sail is adjusted again. Lines are tightened or loosened as needed. The deck remains wet, but the threat, if it could ever be called that, passes. Silence returns. Not complete silence. The sea still moves, the boat still creaks, but the pressure lifts. The storm leaves no mark beyond dampness and fatigue. The men rest. Some sit, some lean. Some close their eyes briefly. There is no celebration. Survival does not require acknowledgement. Later, when the sky clears further, light returns in muted tones. The sea remains restless but manageable. The horizon becomes visible again. Odysseus watches it. He does not think of the storm as an enemy defeated. He thinks of it as an experience completed. The sea has done what it does. They have done what they do. Night approaches. The storm has passed, but the after effects remain. The air feels heavier. The boat carries the memory of motion in its slow rocking. Dinner is simple. Bread dampened by moisture. Water tasted more carefully. No fire tonight. There is no need. Eating is brief. Sleep comes unevenly. The body remains alert longer than usual. Muscles twitch. Balance is remembered even while lying still. Odysseus dreams lightly. Fragments of movement, shifting surfaces. The sensation of rising and falling continues in his mind. Morning comes. The sea is calmer now, not flat, but composed. The storm has moved on to somewhere else. The boat bears no damage worth noting. Salt dries on wood. Cloth stiffens. The men stretch and adjust. No one speaks of what happened. There is nothing to say. Storms are part of the journey, but they do not define it. They are endured, not remembered. The sea resumes its quieter rhythm. The sail fills gently. Direction holds. Odysseus feels the familiar return of thought, memory, anticipation, reflection. The storm has narrowed his world briefly. Now it opens again. He looks ahead. The journey continues, unchanged. Land appears again without excitement. Not as a goal reached, but as something simply encountered. A shoreline comes into view, as it always does. First as a shape, then as texture, then as detail. The sea slows the boat naturally. Water shallows. The sound of waves changes slightly, becoming softer, more frequent. The men guide the boat toward the shore. There is no rush to disembark. The boat is pulled in gently, allowed to rest where water and land meet. Ropes are secured. The sail is lowered. The shore offers no greeting. It does not promise anything. Odysseus steps onto land and feels the familiar shift again. His body adjusts from motion to stillness. It takes a moment. He waits. The place looks ordinary. There are no cliffs towering dramatically, no forests dense with mystery, just low hills, sparse trees, patches of grass worn thin by use. Paths are visible. This is important. Paths mean people. And soon enough, people appear. They move as if they have always moved here. Their pace matches the land. They carry tools rather than weapons, nets, baskets, staffs for walking. They pause when they see the newcomers. So do the men from the boat. There is a moment of quiet recognition, not fear, not excitement, just acknowledgement. These are not strangers from legend. They are neighbors in a wider sense, people shaped by similar concerns, similar rhythms. Words are exchanged, not many, not urgent. Questions about water, about food, about the condition of the boat. Answers are given without elaboration. Hospitality follows, not ceremonially, not formally. Someone gestures toward a shaded area. Another points toward a well. A place to sit is offered. Odysseus notices the details. The worn edges of sandals, the way a basket rests against a hip, the pattern of dirt on hands. These are signs of work done daily, not for display. A small market exists nearby. Not a market in the sense of noise and movement, but a few people exchanging goods quietly. Fish laid out on cloth, pottery stacked carefully, a goat tethered nearby, chewing patiently. The men from the boat do not browse eagerly. They observe. Trade happens slowly. A piece of dried fish for bread, water for news. No one pushes for advantage. No one counts closely. Time is not valuable enough here to be spent arguing. Odysseus listens as the locals speak among themselves. Their concerns are familiar. Weather patterns, the condition of animals, a fence that needs repair, a child who has been unwell. These topics repeat everywhere. The world feels smaller because of this. He realizes that most lives unfold in this way, quietly, steadily, without interruption by great events. The journey passes through these lives briefly. It does not change them, nor are they changed by it. A shepherd passes by with a small flock. The animals move slowly, stopping often. The shepherd waits without impatience. A woman draws water from the well. She balances the vessel carefully. Her movements are practiced. The water does not spill. Children watch from a distance. They are curious, but not amazed. Travelers are unusual, but not unheard of. Odysseus speaks with one of the older men. Their conversation does not touch on the journey itself. It stays grounded. They speak of the land, of the soil, of how long things take to grow. This knowledge is local and precise. It does not need to be shared widely. The afternoon passes. The men from the boat rest in the shade. They eat what is offered. They drink carefully. The shore remains quiet. There is no reason to stay long. There is also no reason to leave immediately. Time holds steady. As the light begins to change, the locals return to their routines. Animals are gathered. Tools are put away. Fires are prepared. The visitors are not invited to stay the night. They are also not asked to leave. The understanding is simple. They will go when they go. Odysseus walks along the edge of the settlement. He watches smoke rise from small fires. He hears low voices, laughter that fades quickly, the sound of work ending. These moments feel complete in themselves. They do not ask to be remembered. The men prepare the boat again, not hurried, not reluctant, just ready. Goodbyes are brief, a nod, a gesture, a shared understanding that this meeting was enough. The boat returns to the water. The locals watch for a moment, then turn away. Life continues. As the boat moves away from shore, Odysseus looks back. The settlement blends into the land. The paths remain. The figures shrink. Then they are gone. The ordinary shore recedes. The sea opens again. Odysseus feels a quiet appreciation, not for adventure, not for progress, for sameness, for the knowledge that wherever the journey takes him, life continues in these steady, unremarkable ways. This understanding lightens the weight of travel. The world does not revolve around his movement. It continues regardless. The sail fills. The horizon widens. The boat moves on. Time does not announce itself. It accumulates. It gathers quietly in the body, in habits, in the way movement becomes more deliberate without being noticed. On the sea, days blend together. Without clear boundaries, time becomes something felt rather than counted. Odysseus begins to notice this, not as a realization, but as a sensation. His hands feel different now. The skin is thicker in some places, rougher where rope is passed again and again. Small aches appear in the morning and take longer to fade. These changes do not trouble him. They are simply there. The boat moves steadily across the water. The sail fills and empties with the wind. The horizon remains distant, always at the same remove. Days pass, meals repeat, rest comes and goes. Islands appear, then fade. Shores are touched briefly, then left behind. Each moment is small. Together, they grow heavy. Odysseus sits often now, watching rather than acting. When he moves, he does so with care. Each action is measured, chosen, efficient. This is not weakness. It is adaptation. The sea teaches this too. There is no reward for haste, no advantage in excess effort. Endurance comes from economy. Memory begins to shift. At first, Odysseus recalls Ithaca clearly. The shape of the hills, the arrangement of stones along familiar paths, the sound of Penelope's loom. Later, these memories soften. Edges blur. Details lose precision. What remains is feeling rather than image, warmth stability, familiarity. These are harder to describe, but easier to carry. Sometimes Odysseus tries to recall specific moments, a particular evening, a conversation, a smell. They slip away gently, not in resistance, but in indifference. Memory is not being taken from him, it is settling. The men around him experience this in their own ways. Some speak less now. Others repeat the same stories more often, as if anchoring themselves to familiar words. No one remarks on it. Time is not discussed. It is understood. The sea reflects this weight, not through violence or change, but through consistency. Each day looks much like the last. Each wave rises and falls in the same manner. This sameness presses softly. It removes urgency. It removes the illusion that progress must be visible. Odysseus feels older, though not aged. There is a difference. Aging suggests decline. This is something else. It is accumulation. He knows more now, not in facts, but in understanding. He knows how long things take. He knows what can be endured. He knows what does not need to be forced. These are lessons learned without instruction. Night comes. Stars appear. They look the same as they always have. This constancy comforts him. While everything else changes slowly, the sky remains. Odysseus lies awake some nights, not because of fear, because thought has slowed enough to wander freely. He considers how long the journey has been, how long it may continue. These questions do not trouble him. They exist without demanding answers. The idea of home feels both near and distant. It is a place he belongs to. It is also a place that exists now mostly in memory. This does not create pain. It creates calm. The men sleep. The boat drifts. The sea continues. Time presses on. Morning arrives again. Movement resumes. Odysseus notices how the men around him move more carefully now as well. Their gestures are smaller. Their conversations quieter. This is not fatigue. It is familiarity. The extraordinary has become ordinary. Even the sea's vastness no longer overwhelms. It has become background. The journey no longer feels like movement toward something. It feels like a state of being. Odysseus accepts this. There is no need to resist time. Resistance would only create friction. Instead, he allows it to pass through him. He lets memory thin where it wishes. He lets routine settle where it fits. This acceptance lightens him. Time continues to move, but it no longer feels heavy. It simply is. Return does not begin with land. It begins with familiarity. The sea feels slightly different now. Not calmer, not rougher, but known. Odysseus senses changes in wind before they fully form. He anticipates the movement of water without watching closely. This is not intuition, it is recognition. The journey has shaped him to the rhythm of travel. And now that rhythm begins to echo something older. The days continue much as they have. The boat moves steadily. The men work quietly. Meals are eaten without comment. Yet something has shifted. The thought of home no longer feels distant. It has moved closer, not in space, but in presence. Odysseus notices small signs. A bird's call that reminds him of Ithaca's hills. The smell of salt mixed with earth, carried faintly by the wind.
the shape of clouds forming patterns he remembers from long ago. These are not signals, they are reminders. Recognition unfolds gently. It does not announce itself as progress. It simply feels right.
The men sense it too, though they do not speak of it. There is a subtle change in their posture. Their movements carry a quiet confidence. They do not know how close they are. They only know they are no longer drifting. At night, Odysseus dreams more deeply. The dreams are not vivid, they are steady. He sees places without detail, faces without expression, sounds without words. The meaning is not in the image, it is in the calm. Morning comes. The horizon looks much the same, yet Odysseus studies it more closely now, not with urgency, with attention. Recognition sharpens perception. He notices the way the water reflects light differently at certain angles, the way currents shift beneath the surface. These are patterns he has known before, long ago. Home is not only land, it is pattern, it is rhythm. As the boat moves, Odysseus recalls routines from his past, walking the same paths each morning, sitting in familiar places without thought, knowing where tools are kept without looking. These memories return without force. They settle naturally. The idea of return no longer carries expectation. There will be no grand moment, no dramatic recognition. Home will simply be there. The men speak quietly among themselves. Their words turn toward the future, not plans, but possibilities. Rest, work, familiar tasks. These thoughts are grounding. They bring the journey into focus. Odysseus feels no need to prepare for return. Preparation has already happened. Time has done the work. The sea narrows. Land begins to suggest itself, not clearly, not yet. But the quality of light changes. The air feels denser. Odysseus breathes deeply. This does not mark the end. It marks understanding. Return is not reversal. It is continuity. What he carries with him now will remain, even when the journey ends. The men adjust the sail. The boat holds its course. Recognition deepens, not as excitement, as peace. Home does not rise suddenly from the sea. It appears the way it always has, gradually, without ceremony. The shoreline forms itself from light and shadow. Hills take shape. Familiar slopes emerge, worn smooth by weather and time. Odysseus does not stand when he first sees it. He remains seated. There is no need to move closer with the body before the mind has finished arriving. The boat slows as if it understands. The sail slackens. The water grows shallower. The sound of waves shifts again, softer now, more contained. This sound is known. It has always been here. The men move carefully, quietly, not from reverence, but from habit. They handle the ropes with ease. They lower the sail. They guide the boat toward shore. No one speaks. Words would not add anything. The boat touches land. It rests. Odysseus steps onto the shore. The ground feels firm beneath his feet. It does not sway. It does not shift. It holds him without effort. This steadiness is new again. He stands still for a long moment. Nothing rushes toward him. No crowd gathers. No voice calls his name. The land receives him without reaction. He breathes. The air carries familiar scents, earth,
stone, plants warmed by the sun. These are not memories, they are present. He walks slowly. Each step feels measured, deliberate. He is not retracing the past, he is entering the present. Paths appear beneath his feet. They guide him naturally. He does not need to think about where to go. His body remembers. The men remain behind for a while. Some sit, some begin small tasks, unloading, tidying, returning objects to their places. Life resumes easily. Odysseus continues alone. He passes fields that have been worked carefully over time. Stone walls stand as they always have, adjusted slightly, repaired quietly. Nothing here has waited dramatically for his return. Everything has continued. This knowledge brings relief. He reaches the edge of the settlement.
Smoke rises from hearths. Tools rest where they were last used. Doors stand open or closed without significance. The sounds are ordinary. Footsteps, low voices, the movement of animals. No one recognizes him immediately, and this too feels right. Recognition will come later, or not at all. It is not required for belonging. He sits for a moment near a familiar place, a stone worn smooth by years of use. He has sat here before. The stone remembers, even if people do not. Time settles again, not heavily this time, gently. Odysseus feels the journey leave him, not as loss, but as completion. What remains stays integrated. The sea is still within him, the patience, the endurance, the understanding of smallness. These do not fade. They rest. As evening approaches, light softens across the land. Shadows lengthen. Fires grow brighter. Odysseus stands and moves again. He is not searching. He is simply present. Home is not reclaimed. It is re-entered. The night arrives calmly. Stars appear overhead, just as they did at sea. The sky has not changed, only the ground beneath him has. This continuity comforts him. He lies down when it feels right to do so. Sleep comes without effort. The journey no longer needs to be remembered. It has already shaped him. And so, without announcement, without celebration, the journey ends. Not with silence, but with rest.